I paid $13,000 for my family's dream vacation, yet they took my seat and coldly left me behind, so I cut off every dollar of support, and what happened after shook them to silence. That night, her lawyer entered the chat with a PDF named Updated Document. They opened it, and then Grandma sent one screenshot. They pulled away slowly. I stood there on the driveway watching the taillights disappear behind the hedge I'd helped them plant 3 summers ago. We only had 3 tickets, my dad had said, not looking at me, and she's more important. Then the engine started. No goodbye, no second glance. My ticket had been in his jacket pocket. I didn't say anything. Not because I didn't have words, but because the silence had been growing for years, and by then it was fluent. I watched them go. My sister in the front seat, already posting to her story. My mom in the back, sunglasses on like it was a scene from a vacation ad. And her, my cousin's kid, who suddenly really needed the break, smiling like he belonged more than I did. Maybe he did. The house was quiet when I walked back inside. I didn't bother unpacking. Just sat on the edge of the guest bed with the lights off and my hands still in my jacket pockets. The furnace clicked on. Somewhere down the hall, the dog whined behind a door. They'd even asked me to dog sit while they took my seat. But it wasn't the first time. That was the worst part. This wasn't new, just confirmation. I didn't rage. I didn't call them. I didn't post. I opened my banking app. I canceled the recurring transfer for the vacation fund. Then I paused the payment for my sister's car lease, the one I co-signed for. Then I logged into the event ticketing account, the one I used to book all our family things. Removed every saved profile. What? To clean, not to punish, to protect. 4 days later, Grandma called. She didn't accuse. She just asked, her voice so soft it barely traveled through the speaker. Weren't you with them? I sent $13,000 so you'd all go. I didn't speak. Just opened the family group chat. Scrolled past the photos of them laughing on the pier, hit record, sent a single voice memo. Their laughter. That night, a new number joined the family chat. It was labeled simply James Holloway, attorney at law. He dropped a file, updated document. Then Grandma sent one screenshot. I didn't open the PDF. Not at first. I knew what it was, knew what it meant. That's what made it hurt. Instead, I lay in bed that night, phone face down, screen buzzing with unread messages I didn't need to see. I stared at the ceiling fan spinning in slow circles like it was dragging time just to mock me. I should have been used to it by now, but this was different. This wasn't forgetting my birthday or not saving me a seat at dinner. This wasn't some passive-aggressive dig disguised as a joke. This was systemic, orchestrated, and sanctioned by the people I'd spent most of my life trying to protect. That voice message I sent, just their laughter, had triggered more than consequences. It triggered clarity. The first memory that hit wasn't even about them. It was me at 13 holding the door for my uncle while he carried in a TV I'd paid for with my summer job. They said it was for the family. I never touched the remote. Then I remembered the graduation gift they said got lost in the mail, the time I offered to help plan Mom's birthday trip and got told, "No need, your sister has it covered," only to find out later she used my credit card to book it. I wasn't a person in this family. I was infrastructure. I help. They forget. I pay. They celebrate. I show up. They exclude. This wasn't a series of bad moments. This was a system, and I was its power source. I pulled up my banking app and began methodically reviewing each transaction, each recurring charge, each automatic payment. This wasn't about checking my account balance. I knew the numbers by heart. This was archaeological work, excavating the fossilized remains of my financial boundaries that had eroded, so slowly I hadn't noticed until now. The streaming subscriptions sprawled across multiple platforms. Services I'd never chosen, but somehow inherited responsibility for. Monthly donations flowing to charities whose missions I'd never researched. Causes that meant nothing to me but apparently reflected well on the family's collective conscience. Funded entirely by my wallet. The medical bills created their own category of betrayal. Each one had been presented as a temporary emergency, a short-term bridge until insurance kicked in or finances stabilized. None of them temporary. All of them permanent fixtures on my credit report. I discovered I had unknowingly financed 3 separate family vacations over the past 2 years, trips where my absence had been so seamlessly managed that I sometimes forgot they'd even happened. The utility payments for my parents' house had been automatically deducted from my account for 18 months. I hadn't lived there in 5 years. The graduation party expense hit differently. $2,000 for my cousin's celebration. The same cousin who had looked me dead in the eye last Christmas and declared I wasn't really family. Just someone fortunate enough to orbit their world. I had paid for the venue, the catering, the decorations that celebrated someone who didn't consider me worthy of the family name. But here was the revelation that made my chest tighten. I had known about most of these charges. I had watched them accumulate, month after month, and I had convinced myself this was the price of admission, that being useful was my only pathway to belonging. They would applaud when I grabbed the dinner check, beam with approval when I fixed their technological problems, express such grateful relief when I handled the complicated decisions they preferred to avoid. Their appreciation felt like acceptance, their dependence like love. Yet in all those years of financial and emotional labor, not one of them had ever asked how I was managing. Not when I broke my wrist skiing and drove myself to the emergency room because everyone else was tied up with more pressing concerns. Not when I canceled a vacation I'd planned for over a year because they needed someone to cover an unexpected plumbing emergency. Not even when I missed Grandma's 80th birthday celebration because they had forgotten to inform me about the time change. An oversight that somehow felt both accidental and deliberate. And still I kept showing up. Until they gave away my seat, then smiled about it, then used Grandma's money to do it as if I didn't exist, as if the only version of me they recognized was the one who knew how to say, yes, I'll cover it. I opened my Photos app, searched airport, found the screenshot of the flight confirmation I never used, the one I booked the day after Mom cried about how tight money was. Then I opened the messages thread from my sister. Thanks for fronting the tickets. We'll pay you back as soon as taxes come in. That was 17 months ago. I scrolled back further, found the note from Dad. This cruise means a lot to your mother. Thank you for making it happen. I had paid for the cruise. I wasn't invited. The next memory punched harder. 3 years ago, Thanksgiving, I got stuck in traffic for 5 hours trying to get to dinner. Called ahead. No one picked up. Got there just in time for dessert. They'd already given away my seat to a friend from church. My plate was on the counter, cold plastic wrap still on. Mom handed it to me like she was doing me a favor. I smiled, ate alone on the porch, took a photo of the sunset that I posted with the caption, "Grateful." I was lying. Back in the present, I reached for my laptop. I still hadn't opened the PDF. Didn't need to because the truth had already landed like a bomb. They didn't just forget me. They extracted me, used me, and once I was emptied out, they replaced me. That wasn't neglect. That was strategic. That was someone in that house saying, "Let's not waste the ticket," and someone else replying, "He'll understand." They were right. I did understand, but not the way they hoped, because this wasn't just hurt feelings anymore. This was data, evidence, receipts, proof. I opened the family trust document. I still had access to the one I'd helped revise 2 years ago because no one understood the language, the one that required a unanimous vote to amend anything related to medical care or housing transfers. Guess whose signature was forged last winter? Then I logged into the group cloud drive where I kept all the tax docs, the one I set up for transparency, scanned through upload history, noticed 5 PDFs added in the past month, none of them by me. One was labeled mom.healthcaredirective.pdf, another vacation.expensesplit 2023.pdf. I opened it. The document listed all contributors under my name. $3,325.44. I didn't even know they went on that trip. The split showed my share of meals, lodging, and excursions. All calculated, all deducted from my account. They called it a gift. They counted it as a tax. I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair, numb and electric at the same time. This wasn't rage. This was architecture. And the foundation was cracking. They thought I wouldn't notice. They thought I wouldn't question. They thought silence meant consent. They were wrong because I had one thing left. They didn't count on access. I didn't slam the laptop shut. I didn't curse. I didn't pace the room with fists clenched. I logged in. First, the shared banking dashboard. 5 accounts tied to my profile. 3 of them accessed daily by people who still called me too sensitive. I removed myself as authorized payer, set auto alerts for balance activity, and initiated an audit request, a full report of every debit from the last 18 months. It pinged to my inbox in 3 minutes. Next, the cell plan. I paid for it. 5 lines. Me, them, 2 cousins, and Grandma, who didn't know her data bill was covered by the person they left standing on the driveway. I logged into the admin portal, transferred ownership of their lines to my dad's email, gave them 72 hours to accept. After that, the numbers would be deleted. No warnings, no grace period. Then the subscriptions, Amazon Prime, Hulu, Netflix, YouTube TV, all running through my accounts, all tied to cards they didn't own. I deactivated every profile but mine, logged out every device, changed the passwords to quotes they wouldn't understand. You said you didn't need me. Infrastructure deactivated. Laugh while it lasts. They could call tech support all they wanted. My name wasn't on file anymore. Next, the cloud storage. My company's license had covered their home system as a favor. Photos, legal docs, Grandma's medical scans, all stored in a folder labeled Shared Family Access. I suspended the account, gave them 7 days to retrieve anything critical. Then it would be wiped. No backups. I wasn't deleting memories. I was reclaiming bandwidth. By midnight, I was on my second cup of black coffee, writing the cleanest termination notice I've ever drafted. Subject, withdrawal of support. Immediate effect. I attached documents, receipts, screenshots of forged approvals, evidence of my vacation contributions. I never consented to copies of my ticket to the trip I wasn't invited on. I CC'd Grandma. Then I TC'd her lawyer. That was the first real move because they thought this would stay small, that I would get over it, that I'd shake it off like I always did. They didn't know I'd already reviewed the updated document. Grandma had rewritten the will, and now she knew everything. The real numbers, the real names, the real signatures. And the one voice memo I sent, just laughter, had opened the gate. By morning, I had 3 voicemails. One from my sister, why are the phones not working? One from my mom, I think something's wrong with Netflix. And one from my dad, we need to talk. Call me back immediately. I didn't call back. I called the title company. I was still on the deed to the lake house, the family retreat that was booked out every summer like a vacation rental. I was the one who'd refinanced it. They never asked how, just assumed. I told the agent I wanted to initiate a title review. When she asked why, I said, misuse of trust, intentional exclusion, unapproved revenue. She paused. Do you want to revoke access? I smiled. Not yet. Let them sweat. By noon, I logged into the family calendar. You know the one, the Google Calendar we all use to coordinate birthdays, doctor appointments, reunions. I deleted every event I had created. Then I removed myself entirely. System error, invite revoked, access denied. Then I logged into the reservation portal for the cabin in the Rockies, canceled every booking, removed auto-billing, and submitted a closure notice to the management team. I'd signed the lease, I paid the taxes. They furnished it and called it theirs. I sold it. Cash buyer closed in 48 hours. They didn't even know yet, but they'd find out when they showed up in August and the keypad code didn't work. Then came the digital audit. I wrote a script that traced every IP login under my shared credentials across platforms. You'd be amazed what people access when they think they're entitled. Spotify, Kindle, Dropbox, my old project management dashboard, where they'd been uploading Grandma's financial data to ask quick favors. I revoked every token, sent automated messages to all devices. This service was maintained by someone you forgot. Then I pulled the final string, the one they didn't even realize I had. Grandma's health directive, the one I'd helped digitize when no one else knew what end-of-life planning meant. It was on a server they couldn't even name. And the PDF they thought was final? It wasn't. Not without my notarized signature. I hadn't given it. So when they tried to rush updates after Grandma got suspicious without telling her, I got an alert, and I forwarded it directly to her along with the access logs and the list of who signed what, when, and from which device. Then I sent one more file, a screenshot from my sister's phone, the one I accessed using a sync tool she never disabled. The caption read, "Can't believe we pulled it off. He's so easy to cut out." Underneath it, a photo of my seat, the one they gave away, the one that used to be mine. The silence lasted 12 hours. Then came the explosion. It started like a drizzle. Emails from my dad's account with no subject line, missed calls from my mom that went to voicemail before the first ring ended, but by the next morning, it was a downpour of chaos. First, the group chat lit up like a dying power station. Dad, you need to fix this now. Sister, how could you do this to us? Grandma's crying. You made her cry. Mom, we're your family. What you're doing is evil. Uncle Mike, this isn't just petty, it's malicious. Cousin Kayla, if anything happens to Grandma, that's on you. Then came the voicemails. 46 by noon. One from my mom began mid-sentence. We can't access anything. Her medical account is locked. Her prescriptions, her appointments, gone. You did this. You did this. Another from my sister. You've always wanted to feel powerful, huh? Well, congratulations, you broke the family. Another message was from my aunt. She's been pacing all morning. Won't eat, won't sit. Do you even care what you've done? But I didn't reply, not once, because I knew something they didn't. Grandma wasn't crying, she was watching, and she had the documents now. She knew who paid, who signed, who lied, and she had questions. I got a message from her lawyer just before lunch. We've reviewed the trust, the medical directive, and your financial summaries. I believe Mrs. Holloway will be reaching out directly, privately. Then the real storm began. It wasn't just hysteria. It was panic masquerading as rage. They weren't grieving. They were calculating. Because for the first time, I had done what they never expected. I removed myself completely. No fights, no bargaining, just gone. And now they were screaming into the void, trying to pull me back in. The messages shifted tone throughout the day. From guilt, "We didn't mean it like that. You're reading too much into things. Let's just talk this out, please." To threat, "If you don't fix this, you're out of the will. We'll take legal action. You've turned your back on your own family." To rewriting history, "You never contributed as much as you think. We only excluded you because we thought you didn't care. You've always been dramatic." One message from my dad was an actual Word document pasted into a text. "Michael, your behavior shows a concerning emotional response and lack of trust. We can no longer trust you with sensitive family matters. You are formally exiled from this household until further notice." Another message followed minutes later, this time from my uncle. "Whatever you told Grandma, it's poisoning her against us. She's shutting down conversations, sending cold texts, copying us on financial decisions we don't understand. You're driving a wedge into the heart of this family." I read that one while microwaving pasta. Didn't even blink. By nightfall, it became obvious. This wasn't about love. This wasn't about reconciliation. This was about loss of control. They were locked out of their systems, their funding, their cover stories, and suddenly I wasn't the overreacting son anymore. I was the linchpin, and the linchpin had walked away. At 8:04 p.m., I received one more text from my mom. "What did you say to her?" That's when I knew Grandma had called them. That's when they realized the information floodgates had opened, and I wasn't the one holding the dam anymore. Later that night, I got a call from my cousin David, the only one who hadn't messaged me all day. He didn't even say hello. He just asked, "Is it true she updated everything?" I didn't confirm or deny. I just asked, "Did you know they used my ticket?" Silence. Then he said, "She said she didn't recognize them anymore. I've never heard her use that word before." And then she sent me a copy of the new file. He sounded shaken. Not because of the file, but because she meant it. Then he added, "She said she's tired of pretending that for years she watched them manipulate you, use you, laugh about it." At 10:11 p.m., I got a ping from the shared family email, which I no longer had access to, but I'd forgotten I'd installed alert tracking on months ago. The subject was RE, updated document. The attachment was unopened, then it was opened, then it was forwarded to 26 people, every cousin, every aunt, every uncle, even Dad's college roommate. They'd opened the file, and then Grandma sent one screenshot to the group chat. "He never asked for anything, but you took everything." Silence. Real silence. No replies, no rage, no emojis. They had seen the receipts, they had seen the numbers, they had seen the choice they made. And now they had to sit in it. No explanations, no control, and not even a spare key left to twist the narrative back in their favor. I'd removed myself so cleanly. The only thing left behind was the echo. I didn't post anything. Not on Instagram, not on LinkedIn, not on whatever family message threads still survived the implosion. I didn't need to. They'd already done the work for me. All I did was release the truth. No commentary, no opinion, just screenshots, receipts, documents, the forged signature on Grandma's healthcare directive, the financial log showing they booked the cruise on my emergency card, the group chat thread where they laughed about taking his ticket, the withdrawal confirmation from the family trust, the voice memo I'd sent Grandma. Their laughter, casual, loud, proud. I forwarded it all to one person, Grandma's lawyer, and then I gave consent for full release. He posted it to a public record Dropbox link with the caption, "To whom it may concern, these documents were requested by Mrs. Holloway to clarify ownership, access, and decision-making integrity across family entities shared by legal authorization." Within 24 hours, the entire extended family had seen it. So had 2 church members, business associates, and my sister's ex-boyfriend, who texted me, "Wow, that explains a lot." The family PR engine collapsed under its own weight. My dad's friend from the Rotary Club left the board. Quietly, no message. My aunt's boss strongly recommended she take a leave of absence. My cousin's GoFundMe for unexpected housing costs dried up in 2 hours after people noticed her profile was tagged in a forwarded screenshot. He always covers things, no questions asked. My sister's fiancé called off the engagement, said he needed someone who didn't treat generosity as a punching bag. My mom, she went silent until the subpoena landed. Grandma had launched a full audit of the trust. Not for vengeance, for clarity. Every dime tracked, every fake invoice, every unauthorized withdrawal. When they realized how far it would go, how many institutions would get copies, they didn't just panic, they reached out urgently. People stopped calling me dramatic, stopped asking if I was sure, if maybe I misunderstood, if perhaps I was being too harsh. They saw what I saw. I didn't just remove myself from the narrative. I exposed the script. The part where I pay and they take, where I stay silent and they write the story, where I make things work and they erase my name from the photo. That script was burned now, publicly. The cruise was refunded, funds returned to my account, the family phone plan canceled, their numbers deactivated, the shared property sold, proceeds redirected to Grandma's medical care fund, the trust frozen pending forensic audit. I remained CO signer, my name cleared, my voice no longer borrowed, my presence no longer optional. But the biggest shift wasn't legal or financial. It was the silence, the permanent kind, not tension-filled, not guilt-laced, just ended. They didn't have anything else to say, nothing they could twist. And I didn't have anything left to give, not explanations, not access, not forgiveness. Grandma called me 3 days later, just once. Her voice was calm, clear, steady. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner, but I see it now." She didn't cry. She didn't ask for peace. She just said, "You were never the problem. You were the proof." And then she added, "I've updated the will again. You're not just included, you're protected." That night, I stood on my porch, phone in hand, watching the sky shift from orange to blue to black. Not angry, not triumphant, just still. I had nothing left to say. Because finally, they did the one thing I never expected. They stopped pretending. And I stopped apologizing for walking away.